Here's a comparison video of Intel and AMD. So the share price doesn't really mean much unless you compare it to the other numbers, but let's compare it. So for $50 a share, you're getting $5, I'll round that up, $5 a year from Intel. And for AMD, you're paying $69 and you're getting 83 cents a year. So AMD, people are expecting AMD to grow their earnings to, say, 69, like 5 times, and then Intel is expected probably to come down. Although Intel have been growing their earnings because they made 20% more than they did last year in the most recent quarter. So anyway, you're paying a lot more for Intel. I mean, a lot more for AMD because it's expected to grow, obviously. But Intel, I don't see them fading away. They're going to be in there, maybe just behind in the race. And I'll continue on dividend. Intel gives you a dividend, 25% of the earnings, and that's 2.6. So, yep, money spent on R&D, 13 billion from Intel, and 1.5 billion from AMD. Now that's spent, but what did they achieve out of that? I don't know. Perhaps they burnt through all that money, didn't get much done. Perhaps AMD did a lot done for that amount of money. But you'd think they'd get a bit more done with 13 billion, wouldn't you? At least I do. PEG ratio 1.5, so Intel's ahead on that because they actually are growing, even though it's dropped a lot, 16%. They are still growing because they're in a growing market, obviously, with all the chips needed for the future. That's in a later slide on what chips will be needed for in the future. Okay, Ebitda. So look, you're paying 214 billion and you're getting 38 billion, or you're paying 81 billion and you're only getting 1 billion. So that must have to grow quite a lot for this to even out, which is what people are expecting. Okay, the revenue, it's obviously a lot more with Intel again. This slide here, no, this is the growth slide, so AMD expects 32% revenue growth. I think this is getting announced soon, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. Intel just did their earnings, 20% up. It's quite good on face value. Okay, so why is AMD better? Because they design the 7nm chip. They don't actually manufacture it, but they design it, and then TSMC manufactures it. And their chip, the 7nm, has speed improvement and uses 65% less power, which is going to be good in a lot of applications, isn't it? Okay, so this isn't a comparison, I think, between Intel and AMD. It's just roughly what a 7nm gives you. It's another slide on that. Okay, future, we're going to have Neuralink. Elon Musk will probably make his own chip. You'd think, who knows, he might pair up with someone. Self-driving cars, gonna have a lot of those soon. Probably not fully self-driving, but the ones that keep you in the lane, keep you behind the car in front, that's all you really need, I would think. People are getting a bit lazy these days. Data centers, of course, everyone's storing their information. YouTube's storing all the information everywhere. Google is, Facebook is, everyone's storing the information. Think of all the businesses that need to store their earnings and stuff like that. It's got to get stored somewhere. And robots, yep, they'll be taken over soon. We'll all be sitting at home doing nothing, like in that movie WALL-E. Okay, then we got Mobileye, which is being purchased by Intel for I think 15 or 16 billion, and the revenue is about 1 billion. And I read the same thing, they're expecting the revenue to grow to 5 billion in the future with more driverless cars. Here are the customers of Mobileye. So hopefully these guys can live through the Tesla overhaul. I like Tesla the company, but I just didn't buy in low enough, so yeah, it's a bit expensive for me to buy into now. I might buy into a FANG ETF, which buys 10% of Tesla in their split. That's the FANG ETF on the ASX. It's got all the good companies: Amazon, Alphabet, Baidu, which is the Google of China. It's actually got Google on there as well. I'll put a link up there for a video on the FANG ETF, which is probably where I'll put my money into in the future. I'm actually going into cash at the moment, so once I get over I need a certain amount of cash for emergencies, and when I get over that, I'll probably just buy a little bit into shares, which will probably be the FANG ETF, for a long-term investment. And here we have Tesla. They have their own chip now. Apple's also making their own chips. So maybe Intel and Thing want to have their own products to make their own chips for. Might be something they're doing. They're probably doing that. Last slide on circle of competence. So in investing, Warren Buffett says, stick to what you know. If you don't know about it, probably don't buy it, because you're just gambling your money. What else can you say about that? And he says you don't have to know about everything, you just have to know about some things. And then when those shares come into a good amount, you can buy in and make money and get rich like him, and old. Okay, so more about shares. You can't really judge the market. In those, sometimes you might get lucky and have a lot of cash on the side, and something like the Roni comes along, all the shares drop, and you can't really go wrong buying in those low prices. So you buy in, and you're much well up ahead than buying in now, where everything's sort of gone back up and isn't really too great. But I think now the way to go is more growth companies. If you actually want to make some money, you have to probably research that company, know them inside out, and just have a high conviction that they're going to do well in the future. And then make videos about that company, and get some AdSense off Google, and then invest in Google, because they're getting money over fist. They're getting money hand over fist for YouTube, stuff like that. That's another thing that sorry, I will stop that point. Anyway, no editing in this video. I don't got time for that. I'll see you in the next video, where I'll blabber on some more about some more crap.